Hi, welcome to Today with Totally Out Now. I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or Totally Out Now as you know me. I woke up gay again today. So, we've been bringing conversations, discussions, debates on marriage equality since the Supreme Court started the hearings in April. It has often been a seesaw, hope on one side and a sense of doom on the other side. Statements from the Government of India, the Bar Council of India, affiliated body of RSS, has called same sex marriage unnatural against our Indian culture, suggesting that marriages like this will create havoc in society. We have been termed abnormal and so on. Fortunately, the Supreme Court is now discussing the arguments made from both sides, and we should hopefully have a verdict in a few weeks. To discuss this and more, today we have with us our dear friend Radhika Piramal, who I have personal huge love for, respect for, and admiration for. Radhika, you have so many accomplishments to your name that if I start, it will take me one whole hour. So I'm going to do a very short intro to Radhika. I think most people will know Radhika. Radhika is the Vice Chairperson and Executive Director of VIP Industries. She has held this role since 2017, prior to which she was the Managing Director of VIP from 2010 to 2017. For those who don't know, VIP Industries Limited is in India's number one luggage company and a publicly listed company. Radhika is also a trustee on the board of Give Out, an award winning international LGBTQI community foundation. Radhika was recognized in Economic Times. Wow, 40 under 40 business leaders in 2015. Wow, Radhika, congratulations. Now, she's one of India's few openly gay business leaders. A prominent speaker on LGBTQ plus inclusion, she and her wife, a beautiful, gorgeous wife, Amanda, divide the time between Mumbai and London. So, Radhika, I want today to be a day of celebration. Guess why?
Because we're having this conversation together.
Absolutely. And more than that, when I read your story and I hear about all the things that you have been through, I think this is one story that we need to celebrate as it's so rare to see acceptance from a family. If you look
Sure.
at stories around us, all the people who have lived experience, including myself, we hardly have these kind of stories. So tell me about this very, very briefly.
Sure. I really am blessed with progressive and liberal parents who, I think, more than anything, they put my happiness first, not their own happiness or their perception of what is acceptable in society. So I was a teenager when I first realized I was lesbian. I was also, I think I'm going to say this, fortunate that my parents moved to London when I was 14 years old, and I went to a regular day school in London. And it is, this was the mid 90s, so it is different in India today than it was then. So there was a difference between the UK and India. And then I fell in love with this girl. And then fortunately for me, she fell in love back with me. And then I was so close to my mother in particular that I really couldn't lie to her. And also she could tell, like, it's very hard to be a teenager in love. And if you live at home and your parents not realizing, let's face facts. Okay. You're a mother yourself, Raga. So I think if
Yes.
you're 16-year-old or 17-year-old daughters in love, I think you get an idea. So then there was sort of no point much in hiding it, and I wanted to be open with them. And so first I told my sister, actually, then I told my mother, then eventually we told our father. And they were not happy, but there was no question of them like uh, holding back their love or affection for me. They were just not happy at the situation, and we can discuss that further, how they
Sure.
eventually became happier. So I think I guess this is the luck. No, there was no question of getting thrown out of the house or getting married off to some strange boy or being shipped back to India. So now, I guess the gods are kind.
Yeah, I mean, but at some point, I read in one of your articles that your family was initially a bit disappointed and they thought that this was probably a phase.
Yeah, I mean, I will say they were worried and anxious more than disappointed.
Okay.
Because like everybody else, they thought it meant what? That I wouldn't sort of meet someone, I wouldn't settle down, I wouldn't enjoy the love security that a long-term relationship brings. In our LGBT community, there's a widespread notion of multiple partners, promiscuity, and that's just maybe not the life they wanted for their daughter. And at that point, when I was a teenager, I also didn't know what kind of life I would have, right? So I didn't know if I would remain single, fall in love. You don't know. I just knew what was right for me. Um,
So, so,
I was very clear on that,
so Radhika, when you accepted yourself fully, that's saying that
Mm,
this is who I am, my family accepts me. So, was there a language for it? This is what is I'm very keen to understand.
yeah.
Could you go and tell your? Did you have to go and tell your parents that you were in love with a woman, or did you have to go and tell them I'm gay or a lesbian?
I
So, did you use
I
this
think
language?
no, I didn't use that language at all, and I think I said in love with a girl, even, not a woman.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it sound easier than it was either. Like, there was very many conversations, there were very many tears. It was in fact not discussed for long periods of time. Um, so basically, I did one round of conversations where I told everybody I'm in love with this girl, and she's going to visit, and I'm going to visit her, and she's going to visit me, and I want you to please be polite to her, which they did. And then that relationship ended, and then we were quiet about everything for a long time. I'm going to say a decade, where I sort of got on with my life. But the one thing I did, even my parents, no matter how liberal and progressive they were, is they did ask me to keep quiet. They asked me to be discreet, and they were very concerned that their family back in India should not find out.
Okay, so this is interesting because this is the whole notion that the urban elitist don't really have
Mm,
to struggle. It's all fine amongst the urban elitist. Again, I'm going to repeat, and that the families are accepting, and then it's all okay as long as you de-gay outside the house. It's okay. So here,
exactly. So that was the more or less the line.
so you got married, right? You got married to the love of your life, who you still married to,
Yes.
and
That was many years later.
yeah. So how many years later, and how long have you been married?
Okay. So with that, I met her maybe when I was
She has
wow,
to think.
28. I have to think. No, it's a long time. We've been together for 16 years. Okay, so I do have to think. Because we're in 2023 and we met in 2007, and then we moved to India in 2009, and we got married in 2011
Wow.
in the UK. So it's been a long time together, and definitely she makes me a better person every day. I'm thrilled that I met
Oh,
her. It was just luck.
it is luck
It's not
actually.
easy to meet right someone. See, anyway, it's not easy to meet the right person, Raga. Whether you're
Yeah,
gay, straight, young,
correct.
old, doesn't matter. Then on top of that, being a lesbian, women are generally invisible. They don't come out so much. Women don't spend as much as gay men. So there's always, 10 gay nightclubs for the gay boys, but like maybe one cafe for the girls or something, right? So it's not so easy to meet. And this is in the pre-internet days. So
Yeah.
we were just
When,
very lucky. We met at a dinner party in Brooklyn on a cold February night. It was just luck.
and you just warmed each other's hearts. I have to put
No,
that
no, we
in.
saw each
So
other. We both enjoyed. We enjoyed, and then we saw each other. We chatted. Then the whole group moved from the restaurant to a bar. We chatted some more. We exchanged phone numbers, and then we met again the following weekend, and the following weekend, and the following weekend, and we fell in love.
you so listen. This There's a little trivia for the audience who is watching. Radhika and us, we actually met our partners around the same time. 24th. What date? Feb 24th, right? Is that when you celebrate?
20th or 24th. I don't know.
Uh,
I can't
Similar,
remember. It was a
16 years
Saturday.
ago,
I don't know. Yeah,
2007,
yeah.
16 years ago. That's when exactly the day we met. I think it was auspicious. It was in the air for lesbians to meet their lifetime partners. That's all it was. है ना? So you're
Raga,
married.
tell us your story also, no? Then? Oh, no.
Mera story is very, it's always been there. I met my beautiful partner in New Zealand, in Wellington. We met at a India New Zealand actually event where I was the deputy chair of the India New Zealand Business Council, and they had an event at the Parliament where Nicola used to run the facilities and the events. I was invited. I saw her. We both didn't know that either one of us was gay because it's not written on our faces. And those days I didn't even express myself like with some idea, like little tattoos and all.
Mm,
And so we
mm.
just exchanged cards and we thought we will meet. And then I went to China in a couple of days and then when I got back, there was no message from her. So I wrote to her saying, "Do you want to meet?" And she said, "Sure, meet for a coffee." And then we met on a Sunday for a coffee. And we haven't stopped. She makes me 3 coffees a day. So that continues. What else? She
Fantastic.
forces me to have fourth. I said, no, fourth is for tomorrow. Three is enough.
Yeah,
So,
three is
so,
fine.
Radhika, we are very lucky, right? We are so fortunate. You and I, regardless of in my life, whatever I went through, I managed to settle, as they say, with a partner, with a same sex partner of my choice. And now you are married legally. I'm married legally as well. But why are we then fighting for legal rights, for marriage equality, when we can easily just sit here, sip a glass of coffee, just enjoy our life? Why are we fighting that? Why are you fighting this?
Oh, I think it's so important. For me, I was born in India. It is my, country of birth, country of origin, my native homeland. It matters to me what happens to all our LGBTQ brothers and sisters in India. And if it's okay, I'll take 2 minutes. I'll just talk about this,
Yeah.
and not just India, anywhere, sort of anywhere in the world. I'll just talk about LGBTQ marriage equality because it's a relatively recent thing. So, for example, right now, there are only 31 or 35 countries in the world where marriage equality for LGBTQ people is recognized. And they are primarily in North America, in South America, and in Europe. South America has also made great strides, actually, in the last 3, 4 years in particular. But there's no country in Asia except for Taiwan which recognizes LGBT marriage equality, and there's no country in Africa other than South Africa. So I think for a nation like India, largest democracy in the world, largest population in the world, we've overtaken China, with a secular constitution that we have and with the vision that our nation's founders had, to me, India can be leading in this, leading Asia and Africa. And if we consider that decriminalization happened in 2018, which is very late, and then but then that this petition has come in 2023, which is just a 5 short years later, it shows to me that India can leapfrog and lead the way. So it's decriminalization took forever, way too long, out of, in fact, I'll say, if they'd upheld the 2009 Delhi High Court judgment, it would have been fine. Then it took another whole almost decade to sort that out. I was very pleasantly surprised when this case came in 2023. It was a surprise to me. I didn't think it would come as quickly as in 5 years. But now that we have the chance, I think it's, for me, I guess I speak up because it matters to me a lot, Raga. And so if I have a voice that people are willing to listen to at all, then let me use it.
Radhika, you and I have, thanks for sharing that. You and I have actually been through something together in terms of when you want to take your wife to India, you have visa
Yes,
troubles. And this is what I
yes.
talk about quite a bit. We are interveners in this marriage petition because of this reason. When we get on a flight, I'm married legally to Nicola, but our marriage is not recognized. So as soon as I get on a flight to India, we cross the immigration borders, suddenly
Yeah.
we are single
We
again.
are
We have no
strangers.
rights.
We are
Yeah,
strangers.
yeah,
We are not
exactly.
recognized as next of kin.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And small things that we take for granted in a heterosexual relationship or in our marriage here in the UK, we cannot take for granted in India. So, to me, when I get asked this question, Radhika, quite a bit, quite often I get asked, why are you even bothered? Because you don't even live in India anymore. And I say, actually, I belong to India. I will always belong to India. My family is in India. Go on, go on.
I, I spend half my time in India. So for me, India is not some faraway place that
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
matter to me. It is absolutely my home. I spend
yeah.
half my time there. Okay, I spend a lot of my working life there. Both my parents live there. My sister lives there. My niece and nephews and nieces live there. And Amanda is very much welcome as part of the family. And we live there together as a couple for 8 years. So that is also our home, and our family accepts us. We are just waiting for the law to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, for me, just on that point, what you talked about India to me is very progressive. I know we took a long time until 2018, we had to wait to get the Section 377 overturned. But look at us. Within 5 years, we've reached the point where we actually have dining room debates about same sex or marriage equality. I couldn't have ever imagined this. Radhika,
Absolutely.
someone, yeah.
No, and
No, you
on
go
this,
on.
a lot of things have helped move the conversation forward. In fact, having these court cases helps the conversation. So everybody says chicken and egg, right? Wait for the public sentiment to catch up, then take it to parliament, then the politicians will decide. But the truth is, we are minority of minorities, as it were,
Yeah.
and not even one homogenous group of people, right? We are the LGBTQIA plus community, and I'm proud of it. The whole big wide umbrella of everybody we are. Because just because I also want marriage doesn't mean I want everybody just to be like a total, two people monogamous, long term, heteronormative structure. That's not the LGBTQI community. But having these conversations, so this, regardless of what the Supreme Court says, the amount of conversations and media that we've had in the last 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I think changes a lot of perceptions of a lot of Indians, not just the urban elite English speaking, but across the state, and across boundaries. Because the truth is, in their heart of heart, everybody in Indian probably knows someone who's LGBTQI. Now,
Yeah.
whether they're willing to acknowledge it or not, that's a different story. But they probably know someone who maybe didn't get married forever or the longest time, or someone who's just very, very quiet about their personal life. Um, we are
Yeah,
everywhere.
I mean, I read statistics somewhere just 2 days ago, and I put that on my Twitter saying that India is number one in the number of people who identify themselves under this umbrella, LGBTQIA, 17%. Now our population is 1.4 billion. Imagine 17% of that. Now, these are people who identify, they may not be out, they
Sure.
may not be out, and that's okay. And that's absolutely fine. But that's a large number for us to ignore. I was comparing, Radhika, I was comparing that to the Catholics because I'm a Catholic from India, I'm not a Hindu. And we
Mm,
are 1.5% of the population. That's about 25 million. So
mm,
imagine the gay population, the LGBTQI population is so many times more bigger than the Catholic. And we
yeah.
have churches for
But things change
Catholics.
faster than you expected. Things
Yeah.
change even in the West, even in London and New York. Basically, two, three things happened. One is there was a whole bunch of people campaigning for marriage equality. There was a whole bunch of corporations who were doing good work on diversity and inclusion, non-discrimination in the workplace, workplace protections. Um, and things moved forward even in the West, in 2 decades, much faster than a lot of other civil rights movements, okay, or a lot of other feminist movements. So we do. I have seen progress. I remain highly optimistic, I guess, is
Good,
my
like me. But I just want to
takeaway.
know, in your own organization,
Mm,
now
yes.
look at you. You are an outspoken, leader there. What are the measures you put in place, and how long did that take you? And it's not just putting measures and policies, right? It's also then getting acceptance from everybody else.
It's a work in progress. So we have stepped up our efforts since 2018. And the striking down of 377 helped because up to that point, it was difficult for me even to push down an agenda. Of course, I could have done it being the boss, but it's not my preferred management style. I would like to have a little bit of buy-in, at least from the senior leadership team, at least from the head of HR, who have a better pulse of the organization. And so for the longest time, they said, no, Radhika, it's premature. And then this Section 377 was struck down. Since then, we've made great strides. So just as a quick summary, one is we've updated all our policies to explicitly, anyway, in general, strengthen our language on non-discrimination and harassment, okay, against anybody based on anything, okay, based on religion, caste, sexuality, gender, whatever it may be, okay. And we try and enforce that with behaviors. So one interesting I learned thing I've heard, and I'm really trying to apply, is people talk about values, but actually what is seen is behavior, not values. So if we can focus on absolutely zero tolerance of toxic behavior, bad language, jokes, that sort of stuff. So that is sort of I will call that the step one. Then step two is policies around recognizing people, let's say same sex spouse for medical insurance and stuff like that. Uh, and we've done all that at VIP, and that is still, I would say, relatively easier. Step three, because that is policies, processes, you can do that, right? That's a few people in HR need to talk to an insurance company. If CFO signs off, you can push it through. But the main thing I would say is like sensitization workshops.
Yeah.
So that is what I call the step three, and that is just a education sort of process. It needs to be repetitive. It needs to be done several times a year and repeated. And I found that if there are people listening who work in India, that actually the prevention of sexual harassment, the POSH requirement, which is a statutory requirement that you have to have workshops to educate people on prevention of sexual harassment. We have used that to widen the lens and overall have a sort of what I would call a good behavior at the workplace policy. And this is something that I learned in North America, and many people call it politically correct or PC, and they say it's a bad word, but I think it's a good thing. So, at Harvard Business School and had Bain and Company, on day one, we were pretty much told this is the line. This is what you can say. This is okay. If you go here, you're out.
Wow.
And I'd not experienced that in India. I
Yeah.
think it was good because in America you're dealing with a really genuinely diverse,
Yeah.
whether it's students or workers, people from different nationalities, languages, and everyone has to get along to work towards some organizational goal. So
Sure. So I'm very keen to understand in terms of the kind of people who work at VIP. You also have
sure,
a manufacturing, right? So you're
yeah,
talking about real diversity there, a real different range.
mm.
So you have office people who come to the office, the management team. Then you have people who actually work in production and manufacturing.
Sure.
So how do you sensitize people at that level?
See, I don't believe like this level. We are all
Okay.
human beings. So there's no level or hierarchy when it comes to, I think, empathy, intelligence, sensitivity. Yeah. So I think what our role is to provide the training hours, get good trainers, and talk about overall how we should be a respectful and inclusive place, and calling out specific examples. Like this behavior is okay, this behavior is not okay. If you run this, say this joke, have you ever considered how the other person might feel? And giving very sort of tangible examples that
Sure.
would be relevant to somebody. I
Yeah.
don't believe in talking down to a worker at all. There's no question. So it's just about time and practice. It takes time.
Brilliant.
Um,
But
in the
yeah,
end, the in the end, people follow the company line.
sure.
Nobody
Do you
wants to
think
like lose their job over
Yeah.
this,
See,
you know.
I'm fascinated by this part because all of us take ourselves to work, right? But all of us are
Mm-hmm.
also part of a religious, some of us have strong faith. We come from very, very traditional, conservative backgrounds as well, where we may be transphobic or homophobic or biphobic. So when we take ourselves to work, like say in your workplace, you have policies in place or you have a language which is positive and geared towards the community. So how do you manage if that doesn't sit right in balance? So I may come to your work, but I have a very strong phobic background from my family. So do you think that kind of
I think
feedback you
then,
ever receive?
I mean, look, it's difficult for me to say because also people might not say to my face, right? No
Sure.
one is going to be very rude to me, so I
Fair.
cannot. Who knows exactly what conversation happens, in which common room or canteen. But my point is not just about LGBTQ. It is about overall having a respectful environment. And let's talk about women at work, okay? Honestly,
Yeah.
it's a bigger sort of issue than the LGBTQ thing because at VIP we still, have less than 10% of our management workforce is female. Our factory workforce is in fact majority female because we have garment equivalent of stitching and garment lines. Soft luggage is manufactured. So we have 3,000 female workers in Bangladesh. Um, so for them, the starting point should not be about LGBTQ because that is a bit, too far removed. But we can talk about respect at the workplace. We can talk about no bullying, no harassment, okay, no teasing. I mean, some of the issues which are relevant for women, right? No ganging up, no bad jokes, no bad language, stuff. So we talk like that, okay,
Okay.
including LGBT, but not limited to LGBT.
I'm actually very glad to hear that, because it is all homogeneous in a way, right? It all comes together anyway. We are no different people. A part of me is not LGBT, another part of me is something else. So it's all of us identify in various ways.
If we are inclusive of the most vulnerable person, whoever that vulnerable person is, everybody who's a minority will benefit. Okay? So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
It's a broader
So
inclusion point.
brilliant. Correct. So coming from that, and I know a lot of corporate companies, Radhika, are doing this allyship and they're sensitizing the whole entire, I mean, talking 25, 30,000 workforces are getting these kind of trainings. So, and then when we get this random statement from the Bar Council of India or the RSS saying, oh my God, this is like 99.9% of the country is against this. So how do you respond to something like that when you are present in that country working?
I just don't think it's true. And I don't know why the Bar Council put out that statement or what made them or motivated them. I don't take it very seriously because I don't think it's true. And I don't think many people think it's true. Like, and then we can counter it with the Pew study that had a much different figure, right? So, um, everybody is free to set the tone in their workplace the way they like. And I'm fortunate enough to be the boss, so I can set the tone for the company. But I think no matter who you are, where you're working, at least you can set the tone in your living room. You can set the tone in your immediate team, you know. Uh, The one thing I would say is to people who are in these bad sort of dining table conversations where they're really being attacked is either you change the people or you leave. It's just, there's no point sitting around being attacked in your own home. I know leaving is difficult. I mean, I do understand that, given the position I'm in, but I've also moved countries 2, 3 times, so, and I think it is important to, it can be from another place to a city or whatever, but I think there are safe and positive places in India, and it's important to find them.
Yeah, sure. I think we need to do a talk on that as well. And I keep thinking about it because a lot of young people come to us and say that they want to come out and what is the right time to come out. And I always say to them, there is no right or wrong time. You come out when you feel safe and when you have a safety network or support system around you. Otherwise, you don't come out because we all need to have that safe person or place, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
but Radhika, I'm again curious. Has there anybody in your organization who's come up to you and said and has come out to you and felt safe?
No, no.
No?
A lot of people from outside, actually. Other organizations have written and I reply back. And if anyone is listening and is not sure what to do, find me on LinkedIn, send a message, I will reply. Raga, you have to understand the power structure within a company. Okay, so if I'm um, part of the promoter group, I'm the managing director, I'm also, it's you would just never do that, right? You would find a closer colleague to talk to. um
Which is fair. Which in your case, would that closer colleague ever come and share with you, saying, Radhika, this person actually came out to us, and I'd like for you to hear their story.
so many places outside of VIP, yes, but not
Yeah,
in VIP. And I think it's because of my particular position in VIP. And it's not because the person thinks I'm not relatable to or something, but they would just have to, firstly, they would have to like jump for hierarchies to reach me, and then their boss
yeah,
might feel bad, and then, that would
sure,
cause its own set of issues.
sure,
But in
sure.
other
No,
companies, people reach out to me all the time.
yeah, so interesting, right? That's interesting to know. But tell me, coming back to the marriage equality discussions, now what is it? What's going on in India at this point? You've just come back from India last week, right? So what's happening there?
Yeah.
What's
I mean, I don't know. The first week I was extremely excited because it was a petitioner side, and I thought all the petitioners, lawyers, and advocates made such a great case, and systematically sort of addressed all the points. The next week, obviously, was the other side, and so then I felt less hopeful. And now we have to wait and see. I'm not one for crystal ball gazing on, I just don't know.
you don't know?
I mean, I'm optimistic that something will come. Because there was so much discussion of rights and equality, and saying that not doing it would be discrimination or it's not in line with our constitutional values. So that gives me a little bit of encouragement. But what form it will place, will it happen? Will it get kicked to the legislature, which would really delay things? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm waiting to talk to a lawyer, my own lawyer, because we are interveners for the marriage equality,
Mm,
is to
mm,
understand
mm,
this. Because let's say that India passes civil union and says, okay,
mm.
you'll get the civil rights, civil union, you can have a civil union instead of marriage for now, which I know most of the community don't want that. They
I
want
don't
to
want
have
that
full
either.
rights. Yeah, I
I also
understand
want that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We all want marriage, full marriage recognition, right? But I just wonder if that were to happen, then still what happens to people like you and I? Because our marriage will not be legally recognized anyway, because we have not, we don't have a
I have
civil
a long
union.
story about my civil union and converting it to a marriage in the UK. So even in
Please
the UK,
share.
I've had these problems.
Please share.
Okay.
Please tell me.
So I had a civil union, not a marriage, with Amanda in 2011 in London. So in the UK, legalized it in 2003, I believe, or 2005. One of the few countries, I think, where the legislation did it. Somewhat surprisingly, even the Conservative Party then supported it, and they have said, multiple Conservative prime ministers have since said, this is a settled issue, and we are not going to re-bring it up again. In stark contrast to the US, where they've overturned the abortion and watched them come for same-sex marriage next. They will go for that.
I
So
agree.
anyway, in 2011, Amanda and I had a civil union because that was what was allowed then. Marriage was not allowed. Then the years passed in the UK, and then some straight people said, we want to be able to have civil union and not marriage. That it is not fair that only the LGBT people get civil union, not marriage. So the parliament agreed, and now in the UK, straight people can either have a civil union or a marriage, and even LGBT people can either have a civil union or a marriage. Is a choice. What's the difference between the two? The civil union is secular. It cannot be in a religious place like a temple or a church, whereas a marriage or weddings can be in a temple or a church. But in COVID times, the US had very strict restrictions on people going to the US for the longest time. But they did allow spouses of American citizens to visit the US, although even when all the borders were closed. So Amanda and I tried to board a flight at Heathrow, and I was denied boarding and sent home by US border at Heathrow, who said, no, you have a civil union, not a marriage, so you're not a spouse. And I said, I had a whole thing. What is the difference? And, it's the same in this country. Everything is the same. All the rights are the same. He said, listen, in the US, there's no it's not the same. You're not married. You can't. So then I went home sadly. She got on her flight and went to see her parents. And so then I said, no, this is not okay. So then we had another marriage ceremony in London and got married again.
This is so ridiculous. So when you think of it, and this is the same point I was making. So if we have a civil union agreed and recognized in India, it's still not going to change anything for us anyway, because marriage is still not legally recognized. Just to understand one point, you said the differences between civil union and like a civil marriage and a legal marriage is that we can
civil
then get
union and marriage.
So in marriage,
both are legal.
Both are legal, but in a marriage, you're saying that you can actually have a religious ceremony.
Yes, you can be blessed by a priest. You can in a religious setting, and that is the difference between a civil union and a marriage in this country. It might be different in India.
No, I'm not sure about that, Radhika. I'm not sure about that because I couldn't get married in church. The church doesn't allow me to marry in a the church. So I had to get married. I had a registered marriage here, but I'm not allowed to get married in church.
That's because you're Catholic, Raga. Those priests are very old-fashioned.
So I know you're married. You're allowed to get married, have a wedding in a temple, but I know church doesn't allow it. I know that.
So the law has to agree, and the religious part has to agree. So what the law is saying in the UK now is, if your priest gives you permission, you can be queer and get married in a church. And if you, Raga, were willing to, give up Catholicism and go to the Church of England, then you would find some lovely female Anglican priest who would be willing to marry you in a church.
I think I should get married now. Number 3. I can't even say number 2. Number 3 for me. No more.
No, even I've had 2, and if anything happens, I'll have a 3rd. Will be fine. And then I'll have to do the 4th in the US, because I'm sure if the US Supreme Court is overturning abortion, sooner or later they'll overturn same-sex marriage also.
Oh my God! Like seriously, the world is going backward in some parts of the world.
Not everywhere.
Yeah, not everywhere. Some parts of the world. But tell me, Radhika, coming back, what happens? I had the same question I put forward to Sonal Gyani and Sharif on my last show. What happens if nothing is given to us and we say that? So what do you think will happen?
Then we take a few months to re-strategize, and then between us, all clever people, and especially the lawyers, I would hope they would lead the charge to figure out a fresh line of attack. I don't think these lawyers are going to give up. I think we have an exceptional set of highly motivated lawyers. We have Minika Guruswamy and Arundhati Kachu, who are a couple who want to get married. We have Saurabh Kripal, who has a partnership with, I believe, either a German or a Swiss or a French national. He wants to get married. So I don't think these people are going to quit. They'll keep going.
And I also believe, this is my little belief from my home in London, is that more and more allies have decided to stand by us. So I think that we're going to have our allies, and of course from our community, which is 17% of us, of India, we're not going to let this go.
Yeah.
And I think the fight has started and it will continue. On my last show, Radhika, Sonal said interestingly, okay, there is a possibility that this may not come through. And she said to people, don't give up hope. It's okay. It's not the end. Yeah. And it's not the end of the world. Don't go and do something traumatic or dramatic to yourself. It's going to change because
no, history goes like this. Obama said it perfectly actually in his concession speech. What was it, when Clinton lost and Trump won, and Obama gave a speech saying history goes in zigs and zags. And even in our own case, we know this. In 2009, Delhi High Court said yes. Then in 2013, Supreme Court said no. Then Supreme Court again said yes in 2018. So absolutely no question of giving up hope. But will it happen now or in a decade? Let's hope for now. Let's
Yeah,
hope
let's
so.
hope for now because 18 years ago, this question was put forward to me saying that, do you think you will marry a woman? And I at that time said, are you mad? It's not in my lifetime. It's not going to happen. So in our lifetime, my own lifetime, I got married to a woman. In my lifetime, I'm going to get married to a woman in the country of my birth. Radhika, you and I are just definitely going to do that. We're going to take some questions and read some comments, some
Sure.
beautiful
Sure.
comments. So Rahul Sharma, thank you for coming back onto our show. He's a fan, follower. He is from our community and is a wonderful, wonderful storyteller himself. So Rahul says Nepal has also recognition. Yeah, that's right. We are living in
Yep.
hope and none of us are giving up. Fantastic to hear that, Rahul. Never give up. If you have any questions for Radhika, please feel free to ask now. Manju Patel Nair, who's a very dear friend of ours from London, she says, from what I know, the religious place can refuse to marry same-sex couples despite the marriage equality legislation. Now that is interesting to know. I think that is the point I was making. That's interesting to know. So Manju, we may have
That is correct.
that is correct, no? So Manju, you may have to have,
Yes.
I don't know, wedding number 10. How many? She's also had lots. She's married to a beautiful partner, Rakhi, and they keep getting married everywhere in the world, wherever possible. So I think it's great. Why not? So, Radhika, I have this, I'm coming back to this upper class elitist conversation that you and I had.
Mm.
A lot of people, and I know it is coming back to me, but I wanted to have this conversation because a lot of people just assume that just because we live in London and we have a certain lifestyle, that you and I are similar in a manner. And I wanted to share this on screen because I'm with you that our lives are very different. Our past is very different. The I'm going to use the word status we hold in society is very different as well. Our experiences are very different. And do you think that is a lens that people wear, that they put everybody in the same lens because you live in a certain country? I know I'm asking a question
Yeah.
on behalf of others.
No, it's fine, Raga. Firstly, nobody's the same, right? I mean, that's what makes life beautiful. But So, people label XYZ. I mean, definitely, I'm actually not even ashamed of the word urban elite. How can I not be urban elite? I'm urban elite. It's okay. Um, I went to Oxford, I went to Harvard, I run a business that's worth millions. Yeah, so I don't shy away from it. Have I had some, therefore, great security in my life? I've had great financial security in my life. It does make a difference and it makes me confident. And that confidence, I think, has a part to play in how I'm acting and behaving. But let me tell you, there's a lot of other people in my shoes who are not doing it, despite
Yeah.
that same level of confidence, privilege, security. And then there are people like you, Raga. I would call you also urban elite to some degree, right? Because, you've married a foreign national, you live in London, you are certainly a highly educated media professional. So in that sense, you are also urban elite. But yeah, it's true, we're not the same. And if people classify us as the same or different, I mean, it's like calling the entire Indian cricket team the same. Of course, they are the
Yeah.
Indian cricket team, but I can tell you those 11 men are different from each other. Or the women's
Yeah.
team, those 11 women will be different from each other in so many different ways. But yes, they have
See,
things in common too.
that's a very good point, but I don't mind that. I never question it's. I only mind it when on television somebody will use that and say, "Oh, you're upper class. You should not be
Yes.
talking." Well, how will
Right?
you understand the problems of the rural India? This is what they say, and I'm my point to them. Let me see what you would say to that.
No, I will say it's a fact, and it's a fact that we cannot understand the pain and suffering of so many people. Okay, and so to pretend to understand it and speak for everyone would be wrong. But to say that then upper classes don't have a role in society to speak, I believe is also wrong, because if we generally look at who runs our nations, okay, whether it's politicians, whether it's business leaders, whether it's university professors, lawyers, judges, I mean, they're all upper class, yeah? So.
Yeah, yeah, true. So, Radhika, why do you think in our corporate world, very few people have come out openly? I'm sure there are more than the ones that we
At
hear
least,
about.
I mean, I'm sure there are. And look, each person's their own life is changing. I think these kind of conversations maybe help and encourage is one of the reasons I'm really happy to be vocal, is because when I was growing up, there was hardly anybody Indian who was out and vocal. All my heroes had to be Westerners, and that didn't give me that feeling of confidence or hope, right? In my home. So that's why
Yeah.
I do it. And you're saying people are not out in corporate. I'd say in corporate, at least there's quite a few people who are out. Okay. All the petitioners in Section 377 case, all these petitioners now. If you come to Bollywood and cricket, genuinely nobody's out. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. There's a
corporates are
very
still better than Bollywood and cricket. At least that's all I'm saying.
Oh, Bollywood, I don't know who's out really, openly out, other than one or two people I know. But that's interesting. For some reason, we are still hiding. That's the point I was making. And visibility is really important. Representation is important. Role models are important. So, Radhika, I have no doubt for many, many, many people in India, you would be a huge role model for standing up for yourself as a woman. That's one big thing. That's why I say I have a lot of love and admiration for you, because I genuinely mean it. If you're a woman in a world where it is about manufacturing and factory, that whole thing that comes to my mind, I say, oh my god, how did she do it? And then you're also someone who stands up for yourself as a lesbian woman. I
On this, I want to say one remark because people have underestimated me throughout. The most common question I get. Okay, I'm Raj. So when I introduce myself in Bombay, okay, and I'm explaining my first common question is, what work do you do? So I'm Radhika. Okay, what do you do? I work in VIP. It's a family business. So what do you do? I'm the MD. Yeah, but what do you do? I'm the MD. They're like, okay, what do you look after? Which department you look after? What do you do? I'm like, no, I look after the whole company.
yeah.
And then they're just shocked.
Yeah. So this is it. This is what I mean. So this is like a woman, Wonder Woman, right?
No, it's
And
not Wonder Woman. That's the
no,
thing. It's
but
not.
Radhika, this is the point though. No, there are very few people like you who actually stand out in our corporate world. And we have to be fully authentic. And you, for me, are an example of someone who lives your authentic life. And that we have to acknowledge, you
So
know.
I want to give my parents some credit for this, okay? Because of course none of this would have been possible without their blessings, really. So, and in particular my father, who, he's a Marwari man, he's over 70, but he's the one who gave me the job in the company. He's the one who sort of blessed the marriage and said go for it. He's the one who, when I moved from New York to Bombay, I said, look, I have my partner Amanda. Our terms for living in India or moving from New York to India would be that we live together in an apartment and have the acceptance of any other couple. Like as a couple, we want our family acceptance, and we're not going to be in the closet. If all this is okay, then we come back. Otherwise, we don't. And he said, "Come, come." So
Yes,
that.
because so behind
So
every success,
kudos to Dilip Piramal for this.
to that, and to your mother as well, and and to your sister Aparna,
She's been my
amazing.
ally from the first person. First
Yeah.
day I told her, but I saw that face. Someone says just a phase. My closest, dearest friend and ally is my older sister Aparna, and she's the first person I told I was lesbian to when I think I was 16 or 17. And she said, "Oh, it's a phase, Radhika. You'll outgrow it. Hopefully, you'll get a boyfriend soon."
Now she's your biggest ally. I say, I've seen
She was even
articles.
then. She was
Yeah,
even then. She was just worried that I would end up alone and lonely or something. I don't know.
yeah,
She came
sure.
around pretty quickly.
But Radhika, this is a very common thing I hear even now. Most parents who come to me, they say, "Oh, you're a mom, your kids. What would you tell your kids if they came out to you?" I said, "That's fine. Be yourself." They say, "Oh, it's such a lonely world. Will they have children? I worry. I will be childless. I will not have a grandmother. I can't be a grandmother. All those things. Society
Mm,
kya kahegi? Log kya bolenge?" I said, "See, look at our life. We've worked through all that. We've lived through
yeah.
all that, and we're still standing tall. Your child will stand tall, and it's going to be
Yeah.
fine."
Totally.
And just for a couple of other things, someone is saying LinkedIn user, irrespective of the class, one can choose to be empathetic. I agree. And Rahul Sharma, please call Onir and Apurva Asrani from Bollywood. Interestingly, our next session, the forthcoming session next week, is with Onir and Apurva Asrani. And that's going to be interesting because Bollywood has its own problems. My film is still stuck because nobody will make a mainstream lesbians film in India. So, Radhika, my final.
Badai though happened.
हाँ,
Badai
तो
though happened.
लेकिन men no still I'm telling you, whether even in our, and I've spoken to gay men and to owner about this, even in our country, even in 2023, within our LGBTQ community, men still take the upper lead. We still, even their lesbians are behind.
But that is
So
the patriarchy everywhere. So, and
yeah,
with
but
patriarchy, I just want to add one thing. For me, it is men and women versus the patriarchy. It's not women against men.
yeah,
If we, or
exactly.
to all our male viewers here, please,
Yeah,
we
and
need
there
your
is
allyship on this.
absolutely. I mean, we have many, many sessions that we have with he for she, where men actually come and stand in favor of women, and that's how it is going to be, Radhika, in the future as well. I would hope so with all these conversations. My two questions I have for you, Radhika, before we go. One is, behind every successful man, they say, is a woman. Behind a successful woman, who stands behind a
It's
successful woman? Batao.
another woman, Amanda, no doubt.
है ना?
There's no
बधाई दो.
doubt.
See, so बधाई दो is where we need to say बधाई दो. But true, behind every successful woman is also a woman.
I think behind every success is a some support structure. Okay, behind whatever success, it can be a child, a man, a woman, in succeeding in whatever they are trying to achieve in life, there is some sort of support, because life is a team sport. Doing it alone is pretty difficult. At some point, we will all fall sick. We will lose our jobs or not get the promotion we want. Something bad will happen, and we're going to need help. So then at that point, if, for me, I'm lucky, it's Amanda. My wife is terrific. I'm also really, really blessed to have the support of my mother and my sister as like emotional support, who are there for me. But there's chosen families. It doesn't have to be biological family. But I think you need the childhood friend or a close cousin, a helpful aunt or uncle, somebody, a mentor at work, anybody. Nobody, I think, succeeds on their own. And for those people who think they've succeeded on their own, they've got a lot of ego or luck or whatever, because we all need some help sometimes.
Absolutely. I couldn't even really have a cup of coffee in my woke up gay again mug without my wife. Really, there's no
Yeah.
way. So I agree with you. Our supports are very important. But for the heterosexual couple who think that behind every man there's a woman, and the woman has to play a certain role, stay at home, be nothing wrong with that. But I want women to know that you can be your own success as well, and you, as long as you have a support system, support network.
Yeah.
And Radhika, you're an example. We're an example of that. And my final question to you is, what is it that you want to ask the audience? You say
What do
anything you
I
want to
want?
know. Yeah, you say
Yeah. No,
anything
I
you want
would
to ask.
like to know. I would like to know what's on, especially for any 18 to 25-year-olds or 18 to 30-year-olds. Like, what are the things that bother you now? Because maybe what Raga and I are talking out is totally old-fashioned, fears of coming out, or what will parents say. Maybe that's a totally passé thing. What do the 18 to 30-year-olds, members of the LGBTQI community, worry about now? I would like to know.
Very good point. And Radhika, we talking about marriage may be very old fashioned for 18 to 30-year-olds. Saying, what is
Yeah.
this? Shadi kya hota hai?
Boring thing, yeah.
Yeah. Very good
पुरानी
question.
जमाने की बात है.
Okay, so this question I'm going to put out in a video after a session to the general public and ask 18 to 30-year-olds what is their stand on this?
Yeah, what
What
are
do they
they?
want?
No, what are their chief concerns? And it doesn't have to be, maybe it is like, finding a job and a home. Maybe it's not LGBTQ related, but within LGBTQ related, what are the chief concerns these days for young people?
Sure. And finally, in India, particularly in Bombay, I've seen that there's a really good support network for the LGBTQ community now. It wasn't there for long. So if there are any special such places, please can you at some point later, Radhika, go back on the YouTube channel where this will
Yeah,
be
sure,
hosted and share some
sure.
links, because I know you go back to India very often, and
Yeah,
and tell us about some legitimate links. And I also know you do a lot of work for the community there in India.
yeah.
So thank you for that. Any particular NGO you want to talk about? Any particular?
Um, Actually, I would actually like to make a plug for the Trans Cafe in Andheri. So this has been recently started by Zainab Patel, who was one of the people I worked with I was a co-chair of a FICI task force for diversity and inclusion in the workplace, which was focused on increasing the participation of women, people with disabilities, and LGBTQ people. So Zainab and I got to know each other then. She's opened the Trans Cafe in Andheri, and if any of you are in Bombay and would like, some really tasty food and drinks, please go along and show your support. It is owned by a trans person, Zainab, and everybody who works there is trans, and it is just fantastic food and drink. Please go support the Trans Cafe
Fabulous.
in Andheri.
Radhika, thank you. We're going to put the links out here. Zainab Patel has been on one of our shows with Harish Iyer talking about marriage equality. Zainab Patel is a very, very dear friend of mine and is a fantastic human. She runs a trans cafe, like you said, which is quite successful. And also she recently started Trans Salon. So
Okay.
both in Bombay, please go for it. Any support is most welcome. And thank you for that plug-in, Radhika. I'm sure Zainab will appreciate that. And no, anything else before we end this fantastic conversation?
No, I mean, I'm good. Thank you, Raga, for inviting me. I was wondering how to work because we are good friends also. So I was like, will it be formal? Will it be informal? You promised me the time would fly by. Indeed, it has.
Oh, wonderful. We've hopefully this friendship remains. Badhai ho, badhai do. And no, really, Radhika, it's been a pleasure knowing you. We've known each other for a long time now. And it's
Yeah,
absolute pleasure. I don't think we get an opportunity to tell you how much we care and love you both.
thank you.
But thank you for being in our life. And no, it's been an absolute pleasure. For those who are watching, you know where to reach us at theviewsroom@gmail.com if you want to participate, share feedback at theviewsroom@gmail.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, which you already know, Raga Olga De Silva. That has a lot of content. This particular the most interesting conversation is going to be posted there as well. Please reach out. Thank you also to our partners, Lotus Visual, for their support, Digital Partners, Digital Fix, and our community partners, the Gay Indian Network in the UK. Thank you, Nicola, the producer, the woman behind me, and I should say behind my success, but behind me for everything, success or failure, she stands by me. And thank you to our wonderful, wonderful audience. If you wish to take part on the show, you know where to reach me, theviewsroom@gmail.com. Thank you very much. And Radhika, lots of love to you. Badai
Thank you
ho.
so much, Raga. Bye.